literally blowing my mind. This is even better than I expected. Hey, what's going on, you tubulous? EXO coming at you here with another crazy Behemoth build video. Things are getting real over here, folks. Holy smokes. Also, thank you all so much for your awesome comments last time. Seriously, it meant the world to me reading such meaningful words from you all. So if you don't mind, consider this a little hug from me to you, because that really helped me out. Previously, we finished up like a million different things: the subwoofer box, B-pillars and roof, RCAs, a ton of wiring, batteries, and of course the painting. With many of those steps being a prerequisite for the next phase, we've officially made it to the point where we can start installing bass amps. Whew, this is the moment, you guys. 12 Incriminator audio 6Ks. But like most things with a build this big, it's rarely straightforward. Got a bunch of boxes to check off, and we'll go through them one by one like a crazy puzzle. Should be pretty fun. For starters, we can't just go mounting amplifiers willy-nilly. There's gotta be an order. Because of the extra tight spaces fitting a dozen 6Ks back here, some amps, like the ones in the corners, require a little more TLC, and we'll have to do those ones first. I got so lucky on this one though. Check this out. Remember back when building the amp rack and the top row nearest the roof got angle iron instead of square tubing? Well, that just saved my ass. If you notice where the mounting feet get attached on the tubing, no one's hand's getting underneath there. But because it's angle iron on the top, thankfully, I can go right from underneath. That means instead of attaching the foot to the rack and screwing down, I'll do a swap-a-roo and attach the foot to the amp and go up. Gotta love tight spaces, plenty more where that came from too, so you guessed it. The wiring and tuning process will also be pretty fun. All the zero gauge power and ground will be done out here first and then carefully placed inside. That way I can measure for each amplifier individually and cut the wires a little bit bigger just to be safe. But before all those wires get in the way, it's a perfect time to preset all the amps. Got Helix DSPs, so the only thing I'm concerned about are the gain knobs. I want to set these to where 5 volts is maximum power. Well, maybe a soft clip actually. That way, when we reintroduce 5 volts again from our DSP, all of the amps will recognize it as optimal and we'll be cooking with gas. The crossovers and phase adjustment will all be dialed in later through the DSP software, because not only is there a shared channel for the subs, there's the option to go solo for even more accuracy. That's what the Big Mama DSP handles, 12 channels of straight bass. So now we just need to set up a test bench, nothing crazy, grab a good old power supply, some meters, and try to find the buried treasure in here somewhere. A Pioneer 80 PRS, oh boy. Let's get this show on the road. Frickin' finally, the old girl was hiding deep. Spare bin for the win, as usual. All right, got a nice little testing station ready to preset all the amps. Now, because we're doing this unloaded without a sub connected, there's no need to have big, huge cables to get this part done. Think of it as a lamp without a light bulb. The voltage is still present, but the amperage draw isn't. Go ahead and fire this Pioneer up. Got the voltage set to mid-14s and the deck has a 40 hertz test tone playing. We want a solid 5 volts going into the amp, and right now on the RCAs, we are at 1 volt. Super clean though, no clipping. Let's raise that up slowly until it reaches a 5 volts even. There she is, looking good, still nice and clean at maximum volume. Now we'll go ahead and turn off the deck and get these RCAs plugged into the amplifier. Pioneer hates hot swapping after all with their famous Pico fuses. We've all been there. Get this Incriminator powered up. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing, only this time I'm gonna use the gain knobs to turn it up until we reach maximum power. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. A multimeter, DD1, piezo, hand scope, ears, and of course this old school benchtop scope. Each method has its place depending on situation and budget, but for good visuals today, we'll go ahead and display the full waveform. With the gain all the way down, the amp's putting out about 33 volts. Let's see how much more we can amplify it. All right, looks like right around 95 volts is when it just starts to creep into clipping. So for my personal rig, since I'll be pushing the limits on purpose, I want this final figure to have a nice soft clip. Give her a little extra oomph. Whoops, not that much. About right there. Nothing crazy, but still redlining for those special occasions. 102.4 volts, that's the magic number, folks. And to keep things from drifting over time, a little dab will do ya on the pots. It works like a charm, anything to help, really. So while I do this 11 more times, let's jump right into the next step with a little bit of movie magic, shall we? I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go to shows, one of my favorite parts is seeing all those huge battery banks with like a million wires fanning out all sexy. There's something about seeing row after row of thick copper cables. Oh man. But get this, for my setup, if I just started wiring all 12 amps going down the bars, by the time I reach the last 30%, I'd be left hanging big time with a bunch of unused holes. That's because my amplifiers require 72 wires total, but my bus bars can hold 112 total. That means we'll have to find the middle ground of where to evenly space the wires. Here's a cool little trick that I use. Instead of taking a chance in real life, I go to this handy character count website. It lets me assign different letters and digits to casually find a nice looking pattern. For instance, each amplifier has 3 positives, so I denote those by grouping them together with the letter A for amplifier and 0 for skipped holes. But luckily, since the bars are split perfectly in 2, I simply make a mirror image of the first 6 amps, doubling the pattern for the remaining half. The software displays numbers and letters on 2 different lists, so double checking totals is very easy. 56 holes per bar, 36 holes for amps, and the 20 remaining are free or assigned elsewhere. Definitely saves some headache, plus it's fun messing around with spacing. Now that we're settled on locations, I think it's about time we can start cutting some zero gauge. Oh boy, it always feels so wrong, like cutting dollar bills in half, but I love it. Good old full tilt blue and black, here we come. Let's get measuring. Oh boy, can barely contain myself over here, guys. We got all 72 runs of beautiful copper wire cut to size. Look at that. We even labeled them 1 through 12 just to stay nice and organized because they're all within 10 inches of each other. So the smallest is 48 and the largest is 58. And we got 1, 2, 3, and 4 labeled right here with some beautiful red paint marker. And here's the moment we've all been waiting for. Look at all those babies lined up waiting to be wired. That's what this is all pre-laid out. This is gonna be feral activity, babe. It almost sounded like feral wolf or something going rabbit or something. But it's just gonna be just as rowdy, but these are the ferals I'm talking about. Little copper sleeves to make the world a better place when you're taking wires in and out, because a common thing is to get frayed wires. It can be a pain installing, but when you're removing, it can also have stuff fall out all over the place, and over time, you're just eating into the copper wire. So having this ferrule, this wonderful little copper sleeve, will do the trick. We'll use heat shrink. We got just the right size Allen keys for all of the set screws, the inputs, and of course, the outputs. It's funny, each one has its own size, and you can see here that we have a little bit of hot glue just to make sure that nothing drifts over time. So here we go, folks. Take a look at that wonderful image. 12 Incriminator audio, 6Ks on the menu. Let's get this show on the road.
Why is it separating like that? Trying to get my radius and the glue ain't holding. Son of a... Completely freaking separated from the joint. Look at that. It's like I didn't even need to use the adhesive lined versions. Son of a... So as crazy as it may sound, I think I'm gonna redo these real quick, get rid of the adhesive line, because it's gonna happen either way, but I'm gonna get my bend first, and then put the 2-to-1 back on there, and I think it will look a lot better. I got like a picture perfect ferrule right here with a great base of adhesive around the bottom, but watch what happens when I give it a little reef in here, and then try to get our radius, which is gonna match down to the bus bars. Give it a nice torque here, because that's where it's gonna be anyways, but watch. Give it a nice little bend here, and it can, right there, boom, it just separated from the ferrule. So it's like, why even use this really, there it even worse, oh my gosh. Why even use this really expensive stuff if it's gonna give me all this residue and stuff sticks to it like sawdust and dust in general? But right there, look, it's starting to separate from the whole kit, so I might as well use the good-looking heat shrink if that's what it's gonna be, because I'm not perfect. I can't get this length always perfect, and sometimes it shrinks more than others because it's 3-to-1. Like right here, look at that big slide of adhesive. It just went zoop, right down it, and it gives me a residue everywhere. So I'm going back to the full tilt stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. Look at how perfect it came out. It's like it's wearing a nice little pair of pants all the way pulled up to the waist, wrapped right around high water style. I think that is absolutely beautiful. We still got a nice tight radius and you can't see any exposed copper. That's what I was going for the first time, but I guess that adhesive line tends to snap off at the collar. This stuff's a little more pliable, so I'm sticking with it. Can't get much better than that if I do say so myself. Got all 72 heat shrink nice and securely snugged up on what I may say is probably the most beautiful looking electrical setup that I've ever done. I'm used to welding cable, but this just sets it over the edge, fully fledged, full tilt. It all just, oh, it's so amazing to look at it all. So I need to use this moment right now. I'm feeling motivated, feeling inspired.
I gotta keep this ball rolling. It's a beautiful day. We got about another 4 hours left of daytime. My nerves are pumping right now. I can't even believe we're finally at this point. But like we've already mentioned, I can't just go crazy and having at it. I gotta make sure that I do it in order. And the top row seems to be what needs to happen first. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the feet that are on the back wall are gonna be flipped upside down and mounted from the bottom. That way I can actually get my hand on this angle iron, unlike the tubing. And that was all just too serendipitous, so I'm using that as a sign. These little guys will isolate the amplifiers from not only the metal amp rack, but a little bit of that unwanted vibration coming from the subs. I had this top row of feet installed just to do some test fitting, but I'm gonna remove them now, put some Loctite in there because it's about time to be permanent. So let's kick some butt and get these crazy bass amps installed. Man, I'm really sorry about this lighting. There's nowhere to put it now that the amp's in here. I'll try to hold it up like this, but it's gonna fall. I'm just gonna push it the rest of the way in and kitty corner it to this side so I can cut the speaker wire to length and put the ferrules on there. She's in. What in the freaking spare spaghetti is going on over here? Talk about overestimating. I was trying to be careful with just making them a little bit bigger, but looks like I went a little overboard. What is this? Plugged into about right there. So we got like 1.5 feet of unused poor noodles. I'm sorry, guys. Had to do what I had to do, but looks like I went just a little overboard on the size. I went to go 6 inches, but it looks like I went like 1.6 feet. Better be safe than sorry, though. I hope the rest of them aren't that big. Here's the spot we've been talking about where we swapped the orientation. Look at that, like it was meant to be. No restriction, perfect. And you know what? I've been having a heck of a time trying to find the right angles to where to even put the camera. There's literally no place. Right now I have you propped up between a piece of plywood and the back of the amp rack, and it's pretty precarious. So I'm gonna finish up doing this stuff. It's basically what you just saw, again and again, all over again, a dozen times, right? It's the name of the game when you're messing with bass, especially multi-amp setup like this. I probably will try the big boy amps next time, but I wanted to do the individual amp per sub, and I'm definitely paying the price. I wouldn't have it any other way though. It's just a lot more work. So I'll check in with you guys after a little bit of monotony here, maybe some movie magic. Might as well do one last little tighten before we put her in her final spot. These ferrules have a little bit of compression that does over time, so it's always good to go back around and cinch them up after she sits for a while.
my gosh, look at this. All 4 amps on the left side are wired and dialed. Oh boy. Beautiful routing going up the left-hand side, so close together. And I gotta say, that symmetry is exactly like what I was trying to explain was my favorite part of car audio when I go to shows. So now we're gonna work our way this way so we can get our 4 arms in that little middle spot. Things are coming together awesome over here. You can see that everything is lining up perfectly, just like it was meant to be, wires and everything. A little bit of planning goes a long way, and that's what we did on this one. Holy smokes, did we do a lot of planning. Everything is pre-done beforehand, RCAs, remotes, and speaker wires, 0 gauge, just to make life that much easier. And I'm gonna say, I'm definitely reaping the benefits of that, because it's an easy going process. Even though it takes a long time and it's hard to squeeze in these little middle spots, it definitely makes it a lot easier for me, and I'm loving this process.
Hey guys. Hey everybody. Hey McCree.
So the wires don't dangle all over the place and get dust everywhere. I know it looks stupid, but it's actually the best way to do it. Now while I keep going mounting these amps, I'm gotta be curious about the power ratings. 6,000 watts at 1 ohm after all, and such a compact footprint for half bridge definitely begs the question, how much wattage are we talking here? Well, luckily our buddy Big D already has that testing done. He takes amps of all sorts to dyno online and share the results via Williston Audio Labs. Check him out. Here's what the Incriminator was able to pull off at 1 ohm.
You know, this amp is a big boy amp. This is something for people who do SPL competitions or somebody who's really serious in what they do. 7,519 up to clipping dynamically at 1 ohm. Look at this, almost 9,000 watts. Is it gonna pass it? It does. Oh, it keeps going. 9238.
Whew, and that's just the tip of the iceberg really, because these puppies will play below 1 ohm. Here's the results from Derek's 0.8 ohm testing.
81, 85. Now next up, we're going to do the dynamic test at 0.8, 11,438 watts.
Oh boy, that is some serious power, ladies and gents. Don't be sleeping on these things. Good stuff, Big D. It's gonna be an absolute beast. Took a good chunk of time installing each amp, but eventually got into a rhythm. The most time-consuming part was trimming and terminating the wires. Got a little boring staring at my backside blocking the camera, so decided to film a general time-lapse of just placing them into the amp rack. Also wanted to keep the battery bank topped off now that connections were being made. Good thing Remy was already on the way with a quick gem from Showtime. This is the 1408 battery charger from XS Power, and what's great is how it's set to 15.8 volts automatically. Perfect for these lithium cells. That way I can stay topped off safely while I finish up the install in the background. Great stuff. Check out the links for more info, and remember to use code EXO to save some cash. Coming at you here the next morning, we got Mr. Norfleet sleeping in a subwoofer. It's like his favorite spot. I'll never take that away from him. He never scratches the surrounds or does any damage, so it's all right with me.
Spent the night last night doing some zip tying and plumbing, making the wiring look absolutely mint. Oh my gosh, now this is why we're calling it the Behemoth build. Now I knew the wiring going down the center was gonna look nice, but this is literally blowing my mind. I know the lighting's kind of terrible right now, but get a load of that absolute plumb job. And what's even cooler, if you pay attention here, the middles of the fans. Oops, I got a phone call. Looks like Elise is calling me. I'll give her I'm gonna mute her real quick. That's okay, we're married now. So the centers of those fans line up literally with each slot. How great can you get on that? Another thing I'm really proud of is the pre-planned slack on the RCAs and sensor pigtails. There's just the right amount of leeway to have a nice looking radius, but also enough to have working room when you're getting the amps in and keeping the wires still close enough to look nice. And we're still gonna get a nice light show from all these voltmeters glowing up blue. The only ones that won't be right in your face are the ones against the wall, but even still, this whole cavity is gonna be illuminated from them glowing, so I think that'll still have a nice effect either way. Now you're probably asking yourself, why don't we fire it up for a quick test? But I can't do any of that right now because I'm right in the middle of running a center console which will handle all of the switches for all of that stuff. It's a lot of wiring still left to do, and I'm just about to tie in to the main electrical system as well. I have the main runs for the alternator system kind of isolated down there where you can see the tape and zip tie. So I'm about to tie into all that. So before I, get ahead of myself, I want to make sure that I have everything prepped and planned because you've already seen how much that helps the process. So until the next video, I tried to get this done as quick as possible. I did a lot of midnight editing, so I hope you enjoyed. It's been a lot of eye candy in this one. So definitely check out Incriminator Audio over at Showtime. I don't want to wake up my guy. Oh my word, how wonderfully, oh, the activation sound, did you hear it? So yeah, be sure to check out Showtime. You can grab all this stuff, including these awesome amplifiers there. Incriminator Audio, we're gonna be making some serious noise this year. As usual, thank you to our subscribers, our patrons. You guys make the world go round for me. Thank you again. I will talk to you in the next video. This is EXO, signing out.